What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I just got my Springfield Echelon back from Patriot CNC. I sent it to them to do the slide porting that they offer. So in this video we're going to compare the slide porting to a standard barrel and we're going to compare it to a thread-on compensator. So let's get into it. So I've worked with Patriot CNC for a little bit here. I have their mag well and mag extensions, and he sent me one of the compensators. And at the time I didn't have a threaded barrel, so I bought a threaded barrel to use that compensator. And then he started doing the porting on the slide and barrel. So I took this thing, sent it to him. At the time, I wasn't sure how long it would take. I didn't ask any of those questions. I just sent it to him, thinking it would be relatively quick. Me being a little bit impatient, I probably bugged the hell out of him because I was asking for updates all the time. I did have to wait a little while, but this thing came back better than ever. I don't know if you saw him post this on his Instagram story, but he posted a little video of this slide when he was getting ready to send it back. But let me show you how this thing turned out. So he ended up doing his hybrid porting package on it, which is this big chunk port in the front and then two smaller ports right here on the top of the slide. To do that, they take out the factory sight and install a Glock style sight just behind the port. This one is an Ameriglow. I think what they do is they kind of match the sights that you have on there. So if you have a night sight, they'll put a night sight back on. If you don't have the night sights, they'll put that sight back on just in a Glock style. And then on my slide, he also kind of surprised me. I didn't know he was going to do this. The only instructions I gave him was to make sure it's reliable. If it's something that's not reliable, don't do it. But he also cut these little window cuts right here in the factory slide, which turned out pretty cool. It's in those little factory recesses that were already there, but I think it turned out awesome. It looks great, and I did get it to the range, so we'll take a look at some of that footage here in a little bit. But let's jump over to the bench. I want to show you guys kind of up close the fit and finish of this, how it looks. I'll show you the compensator as well. And then I finally got a holster for the Echelon with the PID light, so we're going to look at that as well. Before we do that, anything that I talk about in my videos, I'll have a link in the description that takes you to my website where you can go check out more information on that stuff. I've also got a link for the Ballistically challenged merchandise. If you want to pick up a hat or shirt, go over there, check that stuff out. I've also got some flag 4th of July shirts that I'm going to be throwing up here on the site. So if you want one of those, go check it out. They'll come in a few different colors so you guys can pick what you want. I may even do a discount on those for the 4th of July. But let's jump over the bench. I'll kind of tell you everything that I've done to this gun so far if you haven't seen my other videos. Then we'll take an up close look at all this stuff that I just had done to this. So first off, let's go over what I have done to this. I did the Holosun PID weapon light on this. I did have the RMR on here. I didn't like that, so I took this C&H Pro and put it on there. This turned out to be pretty awesome. I like the window size on that thing. It gives you a nice big window to look through. The base is a little bit thicker, so I don't know if you'll be able to see the co-witness on that with those sights. It is a little bit low, but you can still co-witness with that. I have the Patriot CNC magwell, which is on here. I did their base pads and extensions, so they have these ones that are like a +3, and then these are +0. They just replaced that factory base pad. And I have gotten some comments, questions. There's a lot of people on the internet that think they know better than the people that make this stuff. One of the things people like to complain about is when you go with an aftermarket magwell, that you have to change out the base pads to that same manufacturer to make it work with that magwell. And how stupid that is, and it's just a ploy to get more money. The whole purpose of a magwell is to create kind of a funnel, to funnel those magazines into the grip. A lot of time those factory magazine base pads sit flush with the outside of the grip handle, which makes them not work with a magwell, because the whole point of the magwell is to come right off that same angle right there and create a funnel, kind of extend it out. So the magwell sits on that same surface that the factory base pad would sit on. I know with some guns you can kind of file down the outside of your factory base pad to make it fit with the magwell. I get both sides. I totally understand both sides, but kind of covering their own bases, offering both products. If you want to run a magwell, run the base pads that fit with that magwell, or take the chance of modifying your own. So next up, I also did the Powder River Precision trigger on this thing, which feels nice, but I wasn't liking the reset on this thing. When I first took it out shooting, you could not feel that reset at all. You couldn't hear the reset. I did throw the factory reset spring back in this that came in the Echelon, took out that Powder River Precision one, and I think that worked out a lot better. If you listen closely in the shooting footage here in a minute, you'll be able to hear this thing reset, and you can actually kind of feel that reset when you're shooting, so that made a big difference. Now let's take a look at this porting package. Let me pull this out. So here's how that factory barrel looks. You can see that big chunk port right there at the front, and then these two smaller ports. I haven't cleaned this since I got back. Two smaller ports kind of right in the middle of the barrel. They take some material out on the inside of that barrel, just backed right behind that port, so it removes the rifling. They also crown the end of that barrel when they do the machining. I think the longest part, from what he told me, was getting this thing nitrided. They send these off and get them nitrided. That was the majority of the wait time getting these back. I did look on their website, and they do have updated lead times on there, which I probably should have looked at beforehand, but they do have the lead times on there. So you're not sitting there questioning where your stuff's at if you send it in to get something like this done. Now the slide, you can see those windows that they cut in there. Those look really nice. Again, they just take out your factory front sight, machine that for that chunk port, and then install a new Glock style sight just behind that port. This is that compensator I mentioned. It's got ports on the top and both sides. Now for me, I'm not a huge fan of compensators. I don't like the way they look sticking out on the end of the barrel. They just add so much length to that thing. Honestly, I hate these set screws. Yeah, this thread's onto the barrel, but these set screws have always caused a problem for me. I don't like them digging into the threads on the barrel, and these small Allen screws inevitably strip out every time. I don't really like the look of compensators in general. I'm not talking this one specific, I'm saying in general. I'm not a huge fan of the look of compensators. The only caveat to that is the Radian compensator. I think this thing looks right at home on there. It doesn't add a whole lot of length. It fits perfectly, and you don't run into the issues of the set screws or the threaded barrel or anything like that. I really like the way this one looks, functions, and installs on the Glock style guns. But just because I don't like the way these things look or install doesn't mean that they don't work. To run that compensator, I just bought a factory Echelon threaded barrel. I'm not sure where I got this from. I'll have to throw that link over at the parts list. But that's the barrel I'm running. It's not an aftermarket thing. It is factory Springfield. And then Four Brothers is just coming out with these new holsters for the Echelon with the Hollison PID. I've been on him for a while, asking him every few months if they're going to come out with one. He finally sent me one of these. This is their inside the waistband holster, but it fits perfectly with that Echelon and that Hollison PID light. So I went up to my property, got a few shots through this. I ran a few different tests with all these different options. First up, I ran it with just the threaded barrel, so it wasn't compensated at all. I had that in there. Then I ran it with the compensator on. Then I ran it with just the ported slide. I wanted to kind of get a same day, side-by-side type of comparison with the three all together, make sure it runs perfectly, and see what the difference is. The one thing I was worried about, and most people worry about with compensating or getting ports put in their gun, is reliability. I know a lot of times you have to change springs and do a bunch of extra stuff, kind of tune it to get it to run reliably, especially if you're not running very hot loads and just factory range ammo. But that's one of the things that Patriot CNC wanted to accomplish with their porting packages and their compensator, is that you can run it with any kind of ammo and it runs reliably without having to tune springs and things like that. The only thing I had is the first shot when I ran the compensator. I had one little stovepipe. Other than that, it ran flawless. I put a couple hundred rounds through this thing while I was up there, but it ran perfectly fine other than that one stovepipe. Now, when I did get this back, I just slapped it on and ran with it. I didn't clean it, oil it, nothing. So how I put it on is how it came back from them. So let's take a look at some of that range footage and show you guys how this thing performed. So we made it up here to my property. We're going to test this thing out, see how this new slide and barrel combo work. I'm going to try it with just the threaded barrel. I'm going to try it with the compensated barrel. Then I'm going to try it with the thread-on compensator. See if we can see a difference in these. you know, kind of help you guys out if you guys are looking for something like this. But I wanted to do kind of a side-by-side comparison video of all three. I do have a couple different kinds of ammo. We got some 115s and some 124s. So we're going to be shooting both of those today. I'm also using my Infinite Defense self-healing target. If you guys haven't seen those, go check them out. They're an awesome target, no ricochets and nothing. Before you start shooting, hit them with some spray paint and go to town. So I'm going to get loaded up and start slinging some rounds. So that's with just the threaded barrel, no compensation at all. I'm going to throw the compensator on and we'll see how that thing looks. You can definitely tell the difference between having that compensator on and just a regular threaded barrel. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the footage very well. Now I'm going to swap over to the ported barrel and see how that thing functions. Now I got that ported barrel in there. We're going to give this a whirl and see how this thing compares to both the others. That's not too bad either. It's pretty similar to the compensator. One thing I did notice right off the bat is looking through the dot, you can see those gases coming up in front of the dot. Whereas with the compensator, I didn't really notice that. So I'm going to throw a few more rounds through this. So that's the range footage. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment. Let me know which one you guys would prefer on your guns. But as you saw in the footage, the compensator and the porting were pretty similar in how they acted. They both did make a difference over a non-ported or non-compensated barrel. In my opinion, I do like the look of the porting better than I do the compensator. Like I said, when we were over at the bench taking a look at it. But the best part of it all is it functioned flawlessly. Other than that one stovepipe, it was reliable the whole day I was up there shooting it. I'm still really liking the way this gun shoots. That factory reset spring I put in the trigger made a big difference to me. I know there's a lot of those guys out there that reset doesn't matter, yada yada. If it doesn't matter to you, that's perfectly fine. But it matters to me. I like to know when that thing is reset. And I don't like to totally take my finger all the way off the trigger. I like to feel that reset and be ready to go. But all in all, I am liking the upgrades that I have done to this gun. It kind of changed my opinion. You know, I put out a video a little while ago asking if I should swap this trigger back to stock. But the more I shoot it, and since I got that reset spring back in there, I am liking the way this thing shoots. I'm really liking this CNH comp red dot over that RMR. I'm not a huge RMR fan. I have one of them, and honestly, it's what I put on guns when I don't have a red dot to put on them, just because I don't like the window, I don't like the adjustment, I don't like that you have to pull it off to change the battery. I'm just not a huge fan of them. I know there's guys that live and die by them, but I'm not one of them. But this comp red dot, that window is huge. The battery is accessible right there on the top. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it does have kind of some built-in sight posts right there on the back. So like in my situation, how thick that thing is, and with the height of my rear sight, I can still pick up that front sight post with that built-in rear sight that's in the red dot, which is a nice feature. I know I didn't show it on camera much, but I was kind of testing out this prototype holster they sent me. That fits perfectly. The retention is awesome. You can adjust it. And if you guys have watched my channel for any amount of time, you know that the Four Brothers holsters are my go-to. I know in my other videos, I was complaining that there wasn't many aftermarket options for the PID weapon lights. And I really like the look and the fit and how they function. But I'm glad that Four Brothers came through on a holster for this thing. The only thing that I did run into with this holster, and like I said, they aren't even on their website yet, this is kind of a prototype, is with this C&H comp red dot that kind of cantilevers out over the barrel a little bit, similar to an SRO. It was hitting the front right here. It wasn't cut for that. So I had to trim that up just a little bit, file it down, make it nice and smooth. I hit up Jason, the owner of Four Brothers, and kind of told him what I was running into when I threw this red dot on here. And he said, yeah, we don't cut it for that. The majority of people aren't running a red dot that cantilevers out, so I think it should be an option when you're at checkout or something, click what red dot you have to make sure that holster fits what you're running. So that's the compensator porting comparison. I promised you guys I'd get one, and hopefully this kind of helps you guys out. Make sure you go check out the merchandise and the other videos I link in the description. I'll have the playlist for all the Echelon videos I've done, so you can go check those out. And go to Ballistically Challenge, get you a t-shirt or a hat, because you can never have too many t-shirts. So thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll check you guys on the next one. And buy a t-shirt.